Hi guys, it's Christina, and I'm doing these videos this week, and I'm realizing there's probably some things that I'm saying here which may be unfamiliar to people, especially as I talk about, ideas such as being present, being conscious, being aware. That may not really make sense to a lot of people if you haven't studied these kinds of things in the past, or gone through any place where you were doing some self-healing or whatever. So I thought I might define kind of today anyway what I think means consciousness. And I think everybody probably has a very different birth story. Certainly the way we live our lives is completely different, and our experiences are different from each other. And the way we die will probably be very different from each other. But ultimately, there's some common threads in there. And certainly all of us can say, like, when we were born, that's probably like our purest moment, right? Babies are completely innocent. And that moment when we became aware for the first time, whether we have a memory or recollection of that or not, would be, pure consciousness, that place inside of us that is either, our psyche, some people call it our soul. I like to think of it as that loving space inside of us that was untainted by anything that had any negativity attached to it, or any pain or heartache. And I know that, at least for me, the things that have happened to me over a course of a lifetime are things that have layers of fog and smog on top of who I am as a person. And those are pretty difficult layers for some of us to get through and to get back to that place of pure love from when we were born. We can spend our whole lives doing it, really. I certainly have, and probably will continue as I go on through life. But there's a writer I'm reading right now, Mark Nepo. He wrote a book called The Book of Awakening. It's a daily devotional. And that place is what he calls inwardness. So it's basically for him just the center of our being. And it's that stifled place that we are constantly in life trying to return to, that place of, being back in love with ourselves and basically who we were born to be. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. And I want to just point out that it's not a mental thing. It's not a mind thing. It's a feel thing. So it's where we feel connected back to our source. I think that could be something that a lot of people get wrapped up in, like, oh, it's got to be a problem to solve. How do I fix me? And it's really not so much about that. It's just about, not working at it. It's almost just kind of like just being with it. And to get back to it, there is some pain and heartache you may go through to kind of remove the layers and the fog and the, muck that's covered up who you are. But ultimately, we want to get back to that place of pure openness. And, for me, that's like, I've got to get rid of all this crap that buried it in the first place, just to get to the essential part of who I am and, downsize my drama, so to speak. So last year, I did something. I prayed that, in 2020, my life would be more simple. I had been a person that really thrived in chaos most of my life. I was the problem solver. If there was a problem, bring it. Next one, I got it. No problem, right? Because I'm fixing them all the time. And at some point in the last couple of years, I realized, wow, that's not really very fun. I don't enjoy being the problem solver and the captain of chaos. So I started thinking about, just how can my life be more simple? And then, 2020 happened, and it made my life more simple without me even trying. So, along the way, the process where I've been kind of trying to reach back to that center of inwardness, that place of love for myself, I've been doing seminars. I went to one in Missouri with Michael Rice. It was really fantastic, and he gave us some tools that we could do when we left to kind of help us, reopen that space inside of ourselves. And I'll put a link to Michael's website if anybody's curious to check that out. But a friend of mine, Andy Dye, he teaches those worksheets as well, and he can help anybody that's interested in pursuing that. So I did that. I went to a psychologist. I do my meditation. I read a lot of spiritual guidance books and self-help books. I talk to my friends. I just started going to a life coach last year. But even with all of that spiritual guidance and everything, I still had some moments last year when I was depressed too, because not only 2020, but because I was going through a lot of awarenesses that, being open will all of a sudden make those awarenesses come up to the top. Oh, now I have to deal with these things. And those were not easy things. So, it's also about being committed to that place and getting back to that place, and understanding that it's not always going to be easy, and being willing to say, okay, I'm in this moment. It's not a pretty moment right now, but I'm just going to sit with it and pause with it and be gentle with it, and until I figure out what I'm supposed to learn from it. So that's kind of where I'm at this year with this whole pause and go gently thing. And I'm just, I'm trying to stay there even when it's hard, because I know that on the other side, it's going to make me feel better. I'm going to be back a little bit more open to letting love back in my life. And, I'm not trying to push all that stuff out when I come into an awareness of it. I'm actually just sitting with it, because if I try to get rid of it, then I'm just like pushing it away from me. I'm not dealing with it. So I'm like letting it sit in here and just, kind of working through it. The thing that I think is most important to remember is self-love in those moments that are hard, and not feeling defeated or feeling less than or thinking shameful thoughts. But just knowing that even though your experiences and heartaches may be different than other people, we still share those kinds of experiences. Everybody does. So you're not really alone. And don't be afraid to reach out for help if you do need it. Don't try to do it on your own if you can't. So as I go away from all of this today, I recollect that as a diver, one time I went diving in Venice. It was probably my first saltwater dive, and I remember going under the water and coming back up. As soon as I got off the boat, I went into the water and I sunk down because my weights were too heavy, and I came back up and I realized I couldn't keep my head above water, and I was like just sucking in water and air, and it was in a really difficult place. The current was hard and I was floundering around in it. When I stopped, when I paused and kind of just like took everything in, I grabbed my respirator and I just started to kind of deflate my vest that I use and started to kind of sink down under. And as soon as I got under the water, everything just became really still. And I just calmed down. I began to feel at peace. And I think in ways that Mark Nepo relates to that as well in his book from yesterday, is the same thing. It's just like taking a deep breath and going under the water into your stillness and just being there, and being gentle. And then, finding what makes you happy and doing those things. Make a list of things that make you happy and do those things. So as I move forward gently, I am taking a new approach and doing this pausing and seeing how the world looks different to me in this new state of being. And I'm not doing it in a hurry. I'm just taking it day by day. So with that in mind, tomorrow maybe I'll talk a little bit more about what it feels like to be open. But today, I hope as you go throughout your busy world and chaotic day that you take some moments to pause, be gentle to yourself, and be gentle to others. Have a good one.